I'm going to move on to something that may be better. Wait a minute. Give me a second. I'm going to try and think of some really torture segue here.
Go on, Men International Road Trip, Europe.
Men in Black International, and then there's a Spider-Man who becomes a man in black.
He does.
There we go. Go Night Monkey.
Yes. Spider-Man Far From Home is what we're labouring towards with that. So, what exactly do you do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe after the most ambitious crossover event in cinematic history, TM Disney, all rights reserved? The one where you killed and then 5 years later unkilled half of the universe. Did you answer, jokingly blow by it? Congratulations, you win a ticket to Spider-Man Far From Home. As you'd expect, the follow-up to Homecoming, and as, to be fair, you'd probably also expect, a film that is much more concerned with the Iron Man-shaped hole in the MC universe. But Tom Holland's Peter Parker, however, just wants a holiday. Fair enough. Being dematerialised and reconstituted 5 years later, an event now known as the Blip, and having your superhero mentor die is a lot to process. However, thankfully / conveniently, his supporting cast of friends and frenemies all blipped alongside him, almost as though that crossover event isn't quite as ambitious as it thinks it is. So, despite society, by rights, having been shattered entirely, the most pressing issue for these kids is a school summer trip to Europe, tourism being a prime concern, and I'm sorry, I won't mention it again, but it's super weird that this film completely glosses over what ought to be a society-shattering cataclysm as no real biggie in an attempt to rush back to normality. Which I suppose has form in the comic book world, but I'd really been hoping for better. I'd given Marvel some credit in Endgame for writing in that a 5-year gap is opening up some really interesting storytelling opportunities rather than a simple return to the status quo, which I've been expecting. But if they're going to treat it as a simple return to the status quo, I'm going to finger snap that praise back from it because it's really, really weird. Right, anyhow, back at the ranch, trouble follows Peter Parker, really getting in the way of his plans to express his true feelings for Zendaya's Mary Jane. Trouble in this instance being defined by huge, terrifying, city-endangering elemental beasties straight out of a JRPG that have an under-equipped Spider-Man, having not packed his high-tech supersuit, will have trouble banishing, but he's helped by Jake Gyllenhaal's mysterious Mysterio, with his lavish cape, smoky goldfish bowl helmet and sparkling clean razor basts. What a hero. Before long, he and Parker strike up a friendly relationship, and with Nick Fury and the remnants of S.H.I.E.L.D. on board, Peter decides that, actually, the keys for that Tony Stark left him to an AI buddy that also controls an orbital strike platform would be better entrusted to Mysterio, a grown-ass man, a hero from an alternate dimension that's not some punk kid struggling with the expectations being put on him. Now, without getting too deep into spoilers, let's just say that Mysterio is not quite what he seems, and that Parker will have cause to regret that decision and seek to undo it. Now, I've already, I trust, made clear my greatest bugbear with Far From Home, so I won't repeat that. The rest of it, though, I'm largely on board with, mostly. Holland is, again, really charming, and so are the interactions with Gyllenhaal, both in the film and the press junkets they've been doing. The supporting cast are all pretty good, and while I suppose if this sort of thing annoys you, you may be seeing tourist postcard hotspots being crushed again, may have you rolling your eyes, but undeniably it's more visually appealing than the action taking place in a supermarket car park. And, well, it does turn out that there's a reasonable explanation for that plot-wise, and that the smoke and mirrors element does make a lot of the action more interesting in the final stretch, and directly attacks what I think was both of our concerns going into this, basically that this would seek to have Peter Parker directly replace Tony Stark. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to like the answer that they've settled on, going by what's so far the only mid-credits Marvel scene worth sticking around for, but at least they have explored it a little bit. It's reminiscent of Iron Man 3 in that aspect, although I refer you to my earlier rant, in so much as I've now got no real expectation of any sort of consistency or follow-through in the MCU. I'd still prefer a friendly neighbourhood Spider-Man as opposed to the magic tech armoured drone commander Spider-Man that he apparently must become, but there's still hope that if seismic societal changes can be ignored, then so can this push to Avengerise Spider-Man, even if that further mocks the concept of a shared universe for these films in the first place, and frankly sets alarm bells ringing for whatever phase we're on will hold. There's an increasing number of corners that Marvel have backed themselves into to the point where it now looks like the universe is imposed entirely of corners, so I'm not quite sure how they're going to get out of this, but that is a wider concern, and in this specific instance, I like the film, and I think that it's fun, and I think that you should watch it, and that is my review. Thank you.
Spider-Man. First I want to address a big problem I had with it, which appears to be a big problem you had with it too, Scott, which is the whole lack of consequence thing for the whole half of the population of the universe
Yes.
dying thing. And I was thinking, when this happened in Endgame, when it's like, obviously we're going to bring the people back, right? But I'm usually thinking, how does that work? Because I like that they left the 5-year gap in.
Yes.
Okay, but I'm like, yeah, but how's this going to work? Like, you've got different ages of people now. You've got people who believe other people are dead, so they're going to have moved on, formed new relationships.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or maybe people who didn't cope with it well and committed suicide or died by suicide, something like that. Right? There's all those things, and there's the more pragmatic things of food production, jobs, housing. Anything like practical like that's not going to work.
What would this do to something like religion?
Yeah,
I mean, would cults start forming? All this sort of thing. There's lots of interesting ways you could do it, but nope.
yeah. You've got problems of housing, jobs. Yeah, the sort of philosophical stuff, the religious stuff, the relationship stuff, families, possible deaths, new relationships are also not going to come back, going to complicate things. Then you've got food production, education, law enforcement. Presumably some of the people that died were in prison when they did it. Where do they appear? Right. So, I mean, I don't expect the Marvel Cinematic Universe to treat any of that particularly well. I would have expected them to treat it at all, though.
Yes, at least mention it.
Yeah, but no, it's...
I mean, even the name they've given it, the blip, is there anything so minimising of it? Of what...
There is something that minimises it more, Scott, and it's a bit that actually genuinely offended me, and it really left a sour taste in my mouth, though, is that rather than addressing any of it, they've reduced it to the teacher with the glasses and the beard, who says that the only service that this incredibly life-changing event in every way you can imagine, the only way it really gets mentioned in Spider-Man Far From Home is his wife pretended she died in the blip so she could run away with someone else.
Yeah.
It's turned into a really crappy joke.
Yeah.
That's kind of offensive, actually.
Yes.
You've tried to build up this huge thing, this massive crossover event. It's like, it's a rotten joke now. Okay, well, thank you. I'm glad I invested my time in that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the film itself, on its own, if you can separate it from the larger universe, is a lot of fun, because Tom Holland's a lot of fun, despite the terribly ugly glasses he's been left by Tony Stark. And yeah, I had issues going to. I saw all the trailers, and I was really worried by the trailers, because the trailers to me looked awful. Because what I liked and what you liked as well, Scott, about Spider-Man Homecoming so much was how low key it was. It was the neighborhood Spider-Man. Yeah. And it was a villain with understandable motivations, and it wasn't quite megalomaniacal thing. And it's like, oh, great, no, it's just turned into Avengers with a whole bunch of things being smashed up. Yay. Turns out it's not quite like that. So they just sold you a dummy there.
Yes, I thought that was actually really clever. I really appreciated that. The fact that it is still... I mean, this is a Spider-Man film, but it's still really about Tony Stark and the fallout that his behaviour has left. It did bring an extra little dimension to a lot of certainly the whole second half of it made it feel a lot cleverer than it certainly could have been. Certainly than the trailers would make it seem to be, which was dumb. But yeah.
And you have the sort of the postcard place destruction, like you mentioned, Scott. Again, though, to a degree, it's not as much as I feared it would be from the trailer. The trailers. It's certainly better than a fight around the back of an airport, like Civil War had, and that was incredibly dull. So it's got that going for it. And while we're sort of versing the megalomaniacal thing a bit, the villain actually maybe a bit closer to Michael Keaton in Homecoming, like a bit more understandable, believable, and more interesting for that. Yeah. So that's good. And I absolutely did not see where that was going at all. It totally blindsided me. If I knew the comic books, I suspect I would feel differently, but I didn't know anything about these characters or anything. Yeah. Has some shades of Iron Man 3 for me, though.
Yes.
It felt like a wee bit like it was retreading something they'd already done.
Yes.
Did agree. Though no Awesome Trevor.
No.
Oh, what's it called? Trevor Slattery. The Awesome Trevor Slattery. Played by Mr. Ben Kingsley.
Yes.
But yeah, it kind of blindsided me, but I didn't see where that was going. And Tom Holland's great. And it's just, so yeah, I've got big reservations about the kind of the universe in which it's set, because it's just like, yeah, we'll pretend that didn't happen because that's too difficult to write. Let's not bother writing it. Whereas in terms of actually what happened, it's really interesting. I mean, there are a few sort of niggles that I tend to have with these sorts of things. Like, there's a scene where you see a great deal of preparation being required to make something happen. Mm-hmm. And then at least 2 scenes later on where apparently you can make fantastical things happen off the cuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite match up, but it's not hugely important. And also I'm quite glad they got rid of the horrible spider suit from the beginning, that shiny Iron Man looking thing.
Yeah.
Because that was horrible. Yeah, really enjoyed it. It's fun, it's funny, it's entertaining. Tom Holland is great. The only, 2 problems I have. One is that I just don't understand why Peter Parker didn't tell Nick Fury to go and take a run and jump, because Nick Fury is an asshat in this film.
Yeah.
And it's completely unreasonable. It'd be nice if somebody would just tell him that. And the second thing is that it feels like it's getting awfully close to making Spider-Man Iron Man.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at with my sort of closing there. It sounds like, and from the way it ends, it seems like they have now just accepted that, okay, now he's going to be Spider-Man, but a little less sure of himself. He's going to be Iron Man, but a little less sure of himself as it goes on, assuming they do keep on doing the sort of big-scale Avengers-y type stuff, which is a real shame. I mean, I was trying to find a reference for this, because I can't quite find it, but I'm sure there was one of these galaxy-defining Infinity War type events in the comic books where it was having a big crossover, and it was just a couple of frames of Spider-Man and Daredevil sitting on a rooftop in New York, sort of saying, well, I guess we'll need to sit this one out because, well, there's galaxy scale, people being battering each other, and we're just 2 guys who are quite good at beating people up. Yeah. And this is obviously not where they're trying to take that character. They're trying to take that character and slap him into an Iron Man suit and have him fly around and do all that stuff. And, I like Tom Holland. I'm sure it'll work, but it's not Spider-Man, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't want him to be Iron Man. I want him to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's always the only comic character I ever cared about until recent run of films from sort of 20... When's Sam Raimi's Spider-Man? 2002, 2003?
I want to say 2, yeah.
So sort of anything from the 21st century onwards is when I'm interested, but only in films. I don't care about anything else. But I like Spider-Man. I want him to be Spider-Man. I don't want to be Iron Man light. Yeah. But it looks like that's where they're going. I'm a bit concerned about that. I don't find that particularly interesting either. But this film is entertaining, and that's really all that matters, I guess.
Yes, I will gladly watch this again a number of times. Tom Holland's just so much fun to watch, and Jake Gyllenhaal is as well. You can get almost as much fun from just watching the press junkets they've been doing. They just seem like they've actually, and I think it comes across in the film that it seems like they are actually friends now, and they've kind of bonded, right. And it does work quite well. I've
not seen a single one of them. I never watched that stuff. Presumably they're on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
Look at them.
Yes. It's they just seem like they're quite happy with each other, and I think that comes across when there's moments where Mysterio as a character is kind of becoming the kind of father figure sort of deal, the sort of pseudo Iron Man replacement that he's trying to become in the end, and like the scene in the bar, and it all works, and you kind of get the impression that does happen in real life too. Either that or they're just really good actors. Who knows? Maybe they're playing us. I don't know. But this is a lot of fun, and I liked it a lot. What more can you say? Quite a lot. I suppose you could go on about the Marvel Cinematic Universe for a long time. I mean, as much as I like to rail about it, is probably the most interesting thing that film's done in years. I don't necessarily agree with it, but as an ambition and as a concept, it is quite remarkable. And well, there's a lot to remark about it. Yes.
to have so many films and for it to be so cohesive, and while I have problems clearly, it's a remarkable achievement.
Exactly.
So I think they're now kind of undermining their own achievement and not giving it the weight it deserves.
Yes, and I don't see where they go from this. That's why I'm getting up with these sort of corners comments. It seems like maybe Avengers Endgame should have been the reset. It should have just went back to zero, and we could have started again from zero. Because I can't really see a path from here that would make anything sort of cohesive. And the elements from the cinematic universe that have leached into Far From Home are its weakest aspects. And that doesn't really set in a positive light for whatever's going to happen in the future. But, well, they've surprised me before. Maybe they'll surprise me again. Who can say?
Yeah, especially because another couple of films have sort of touched on it, but there is the issue they have of having set up all these characters knowing each other too. And so then they have to address in the film, like, well, why aren't they helping?
Yes.
So then they have those really awkward scenes like, where's Thor? Off-world. What are we, Captain Marvel? Don't even invoke her name. That's
Why? Why?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, it's something that's literally going to tear the planet apart, as it was presented at the time. It's like, well, shouldn't she get involved?
Yeah, wouldn't that be quite helpful?
Yes.
I was like, hello, I'm 16.
Yes.
Why am I doing it? Also, why are you, government operative, trying to force a 16-year-old to potentially kill himself to help people? He's 16. Yes. Next year, just needs to be told to where to get off in this.